Well, President Biden's former senior advisor, Anita Dunn, is giving her take on the pressure from fellow Democrats for the president to drop out of the 2024 race. Watch.
There were leaders of the party who decided to go ahead and go very public, and that gave permission to other people to go public.
Do you mean like when Nancy Pelosi goes on TV and you know, there were two moments where she goes out publicly and when things sort of seem like they were dying down, reopens the debate?
Absolutely.
Let's bring in our panel. OutKick founder Clay Travis, Fox News political analyst Gianno Caldwell, founder of the Caldwell Institute for Public Safety, and Antjuan Seawright, founder and CEO of Blueprint Strategy. Thank you all for coming on. You heard them talking about Nancy Pelosi, how Nancy Pelosi was making the whole thing very public. I want to play some more sound of Nancy Pelosi, who says that the Democratic process really should have been wide open. Watch.
None of us had any idea he would do it that Sunday. Oh, well, I didn't have any idea. Most people didn't. So when he did that and endorsed her, then the thought was everybody wanted an open process. Let's see the talent. Let's see the bench of the Democrats and let them compete and see what they can attract. But when he endorsed her, then it was, are you with Kamala or not?
I mean, that's the whole thing, Clay Travis. Everybody wanted an open process. Everybody wanted to find out who was the right person. And instead, everybody fell in line.
They totally did. And look, Kamala Harris has run for president before. She dropped out without a single vote ever being cast because the more time Democrats spent with her, the less they liked her. She's the lowest approval rating vice president in any of our lives. And I honestly think there's almost a 0% chance she would have been the nominee if Joe Biden had done what was right. And if he had said sometime last year, I'm not going to seek the nomination in 2024. We're going to have an open primary. Kamala would have gotten beaten. And I think that's why 19 or so days in, they're keeping her from talking to anyone because she's an awful candidate that they have to hide.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing is Antjuan, you've got, Kamala Harris, and a lot of people are saying, hey, not a single vote and answering very few questions.
Well, I think that's intellectually dishonest to characterize the situation that way. 14 million Americans voted for she and Joe Biden to be our party's nominee
for
president
for Joe Biden.
And vice president.
Not for her.
They voted for Joe Biden.
Okay, again, let me finish my thought because I let you finish your thought. When you cast your vote in a primary for a pair, in an emergency exit ramp situation, there's an assumption that the person you're running with will automatically elevate to the top of the ticket. Joe Biden decided to make Kamala Harris his endorsement priority when he exited the race. And the fact of the matter is the country has responded well. I don't have to remind you all on this panel, $310 million, $30+ million when she announced her running mate. 2/3 of those were first-time donors, $60 million by way of women, $20 million on Zoom. And you see in every battleground poll against Donald Trump and the Republicans, Democrats are starting to break through and have daylight. That's because she is qualified to be our party's nominee.
Gianno Caldwell.
What's intellectually dishonest is to say that a raising amount of money makes someone qualified to be president. The truth of the matter is George Soros could put in hundreds of millions of dollars and then choose anybody. Yeah, please give me that time. You know what? As we think about this Kamala Harris, we've not heard any policy proposals from her on what's going to be the greatest considerations from Americans: inflation, immigration, crime, an issue that's extraordinarily important to me after my brother was murdered June 24th, 2 years ago, and I created the Caldwell Institute for Public Safety, caldwellinstitute.org. What is her plans? What is her position? She chose an anti-black VP candidate, someone who allowed rioters and looters to burn down black businesses in Minnesota, someone who is more illegal immigrant than they are pro-black. I don't understand how Democrats are so excited about this choice that is no choice for black America. And Antjuan, for you to be someone sitting on this television right now laughing and smiling at what I'm saying, it's disgraceful. We need people in office who's going to serve the American people, not serve themselves. And that's what happened with Kamala Harris being chosen by oligarchs in the Democratic Party.
Gianno,
Yeah.
I think it's crazy as hell
Very
for you
quickly.
to sit here and act like there's not Republicans and bipartisan support for Kamala Harris. I also think it's intellectually dishonest, again, for you to say she's not talking about policy. You want to know a big difference in the policy agenda between she and Donald Trump? Allowing women to be trusted with their own health care decisions. You want to know a big policy difference?
That's
on day one.
We're going to move on.
It's understood. Every state can decide. Come
It's a
on.
single issue, right? That's
beginning to
exactly
wonder.
right. Antjuan, let me just go back to Clay Travis. Clay, yeah, go ahead.
Look, Donald Trump
I'm
has been
beginning
as
to wonder if
outspoken as
Antjuan
you
is
can possibly be that every state is going to have the right to decide what the law for abortion should be. That's what overturning Roe v. Wade did. So the idea that Donald Trump is doing something to take away women's rights isn't true at all. It's actually a flourishing of the democratic process. If you live in California, you've got more of a right to abortion than you did before. If you live in Illinois, if you live in New York, go get active on your local state level and decide, as many people have, what the law should be for abortion. It's actually the most democratic process imaginable. That's exactly what Trump has said. Kamala's trying to lie to everybody about the Handmaid's Tale, just like they tried to lie about COVID. They have to terrify everybody. That's the only way they get votes.
You know, Gianno Caldwell, he makes a good point. Gianno Caldwell, hold on, Antjuan. Hold on. Antjuan, hold 1 second. Gianno Caldwell, to you, the point is that, you know, Clay makes a very good point on this, is that's the way that it's set up after Roe v. Wade. The question becomes, Democrats are winning, are using this to win. They're using this issue because people are not really paying attention.
And that's what's really sad about this set of circumstances, that people aren't necessarily paying attention when this was what bipartisan support required for it to go back to the states. That was the consideration here. And now as I listen to Antjuan, as he spit his Democratic talking points, I wonder if he's getting his facts from the back of a cereal box, because it's not making quite sense to me and many other people that are watching this program right now. But I'll tell you, what we need to see from Kamala Harris is quite clearly, what are your policy positions? What is your position on the border? You where the borders are. You didn't do anything. What is your position on crime? You said we're going to defund the police. You put out a link to bail out those who were committing these crimes. What are your positions on some of these issues that really impact Americans, like inflation? We've not seen that, and this unfortunate.
Guys, we got to go. We got breaking news. Clay, Antjuan, Gianno, thank you very much.
Hey, everyone. I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.